eduStreamTV. This is a series of shows that started last Tuesday, last Thursday, and today, aimed specifically at educators. We have bonus content where you can go to the actual EduStream website. Can you bring up that? There we go. EduStreamTV.com, where you can register and you can go to catch all that bonus content. What is that bonus content? We are bringing in different people from the industry to appear on our shows. Now, last Tuesday, I was so amazed. We had over 100 people logged in at the same time watching the EduStream show. Last Thursday, I understand we got over 50, which I think is pretty good because if you stream regularly as a live streamer, you know that consistency of your time slot is the key to building an audience. So the fact that we had great numbers on Tuesday, fantastic. That the numbers were down on Thursday, I'm okay with. I'm hoping today maybe we get to 125 or 150. Why do I think the numbers could be that high? Simple. Because A, it's repetitive from last Tuesday. We had even more signups, over 300 people signed up. And because I think today's category, PTZ cameras, is something that so many people in education can relate to. So today's show, we're gonna basically be covering 4 key elements with PTZ cameras. We're gonna be handling, going into NDI technology activity, 4K cameras, EPTZ, a really cool technology, and auto tracking. Now, before we jump into the show, I want to talk a little bit more about EduStream and what's going on with EduStream and using video in education. So I have a saying that I like to bring up, and that was in 2020, we made things work. The world was exploding. We had all these problems. We couldn't see each other. Everyone had to be remote. We figured out how to make live streaming and remote learning work. In 2021, we made it work better. We made it look better, and we made it easier to do. And now in 2022, we're taking it to that next level where we're gonna make it really operate better. We're gonna make it more collaborative. We're gonna allow it to work remotely, and we're gonna make it more powerful. In today's show, when we talk about PTZs, we have a great segment at the end. That's that segment on auto tracking. We're actually gonna show you how the technology is there. We're gonna talk about some really cool auto tracking technologies coming down at every different level, but right now, for $1,499, there's auto tracking cameras with auto tracking now available on the market. And that's almost half the price of what auto tracking was just a year ago. So we're real excited about that. So before we go into the show, I want to pop on a website. This was something that I wanted to go into because I think it's real important. If you're putting a PTZ camera in a classroom, one of the critical things you have to figure out is what throw do you need? What level of zoom is right for your classroom? So I'm trying to double click on this.
I think you right-clicked on it.
New laptop. You're absolutely right. So the folks over at PTZOptics, and then one of the people focused, we're going to have Stephen Haywood coming on after my show as part of the EduStream, have this really cool optical zoom calculator. Now, that what basically does is you enter a number, so in this case, the number is 50, and that's how many feet away the camera is going to be. Then the bottom is the really cool part. It tells you for a 12x, 20x, or 30x what the width zoomed in would be. How tight can you get on the field of view? And more importantly, what the width is zoomed out. So let's think about this if you're a classroom, and let's say you're in a classroom and you're 25 feet away. So I'm going to pump 25 in here and roll it. And now that says, okay, with a 12x camera, I can get 3 feet. So what's 3 feet? 3 feet's about, this wide on me. I'm about 3 feet wide. On a 20X, I can get to about 1.7, and on a 30X, I can get to a foot. Now, the zoomed out is important also, because let's say my room is 30 feet wide. Well, I'll be able to do it with a 12X. A 20X or a 30X might not be able to get corner to corner if I want to. Let's go the other way. Let's say you're a small university, and you've got a big lecture center that you want to start streaming from, and let's say it's 75 feet out. Well, for that 75-foot throw, you can see with a 12x camera, you're 10 feet wide. That's not really a narrow view, whereas with a 30x camera, you can get to that 3 foot wide, which is great for a headshot. Now let's say you're a bigger school and we're 100 feet out. Now you can see a 30X is going to get you 4 feet wide. With a 12X, you're going to be 12.2. But what I really like to look at is the width of the room. Because let's say I'm a square room that's 100 by 100. Well, what's nice with that 20X or 30X, I'll get the width of the room nicely. The 12X can get a lot wider. But what I like to show is that you can get your wide view and your narrow view, because we think of the zoom all the way in as being important, but I also think for education especially, you might have multiple people on that stage one day. Maybe that lecture center is going to be used for a choir, or maybe, maybe I'm in the back of an auditorium and you're a middle school, and I want to be able to get the whole band when they're on the auditorium, but then also, again, maybe I have just someone speaking at the auditorium because I'm doing an awards ceremony or maybe something else, that I want that tighter view on it. So this is a really cool thing. It's the PTZ Zoom Calculator. It is available from the PTZOptics website. You go to ptzoptics.com/zoom-calc. But I think for educators especially, this is a phenomenal, phenomenal way to figure out what is the right zoom that you need for your particular room. And that's really what it's about, because you can put these cameras anyway. Remember, what are some of the key advantages of a PTZ camera? Number one, a PTZ camera does not require an operator. Therefore, you don't need a volunteer or someone to work the camera for you. Number two, I can mount it on a wall. I can mount it on the ceiling. I can mount it on a pole. So it could be in a very tight space where people can't normally be, which makes the room more useful. And the other cool thing about a PTZ camera is you can use more than one of them. You can use 2, 3, 4 of them and get your multi-camera shots. And with presets and camera motions, you can get a really great value-added production using all PTZ cameras, or what I like to say on a 3-camera shoot, I think you want 1 cameraman and 2 PTZ cameras, but in an educational setting, you might want to have 3 cameras in the room to cut back and forth to produce. Let's say it's for your stage at your high school, so you can produce the play. You can have 1 camera zooming on the main actors, you can have it on the wide shot. It's up to you what you want to do with it. And we've talked a lot about where cameras can be used in your school and what can be live streamed in the EduStream shows on Tuesday and on Thursday. But now today we're going to talk about PTZ cameras. So what I wanted to talk about for those of you thinking about getting a PTZ camera is, what do you need to know? Well, one of the most important things you need to know is, how do I hook it up? How do I make it work in my workflow, my whole setting? So HDMI is the cable we all know. That's how you hook your cable box, your DVD player, or your Blu-ray player up to your television. It's everywhere. It's on gear at all levels. SDI is more the broadcast connector. It's more reliable, better, it can go much further distances than HDMI can, and it attaches to like a screw point attach, so it's a more reliable connection. On more broadcast level cameras, you'll see SDI. Then there's the new kid in town, NDI. Now, if you follow video guys, you've heard a lot about NDI. NDI is an interface that allows you to pass video over standard GigE Ethernet, but it's more than just that. NDI allows all the devices on your network that are hooked up together and are NDI aware to see and interact with each other. So the cameras come in the video, and the switcher, like we're using a TriCaster, can control the cameras. Also, you can get PoE, you can get comms, you can get tally. It's so powerful. We bring in the slideshow that we're bringing into our show, we bring in via NDI as well. So all this gear here is all hooked up to standard GigE networking, which makes it so affordable and so easy to do. If you're thinking about going to NDI, remember to see our previous shows, because we talk about what's important and what you need most importantly to do NDI successfully. So there are 2 flavors of NDI. There's full NDI and NDI HX. And really what it comes down to is full NDI, higher bandwidth, lower latency, higher frame rates. Really good for sports and for people like doing esports and people who are doing things where they really have to have as close to actual time, no latency, no delay. So, you know, if you want to have overflow rooms, you can have some delay. If you want to have screens on the side of the room that have audio and video, you want that to all stay in sync. Latency could be a problem for that. NDI HX, however, lets you get more out of your existing network by having slightly compressed video that's still lossless, but you're going to get some latency. So with that latency, it means all the cameras will be synced together, no problem, but it's not all going to happen exactly in real time. So if you have to do a large screen in the room, you would notice that, you know, if I move my arm like this on the screen on the side, now I do it. So just some things to explain. For most educational purposes, NDIX is more than well enough, especially for remote teaching, remote classes, because even if there is a slight latency delay into it, the truth of the matter is the pacing and the way we teach, the way we do that, no one's ever going to notice that it was there. Earlier, end of last year, New Tech announced NDI 5. We feel it's important to talk about that because if you are, say, an IT department or an educator or a video department, you gave NDI a try before and perhaps it wasn't everything you hoped it would be, with NDI 5, New Tech really got it right, and it's really working fantastic. It's more reliable, it's self-discoverable, it just works, and it works fantastic. But I want to throw a tech tip in here if we're talking about NDI, and that is the key to a successful NDI network is getting the right switch. And for us, the right switches are the Netgear 4250 switches. They are optimized for video, for IP video, for NDI. They come with NDI presets. If you're interested in setting up a system and you want to talk switches, give us a call, go to our website and take a look at those Netgear switches. Now, NDI 5 also gave another solution, which was called NDI Bridge. And why am I talking about NDI Bridge when I'm doing a show about PTZ cameras? Right now, we have a studio set up and we have multiple cameras that are NDI feeding into a TriCaster. If I had a computer running NDI Bridge here, and then let's say I had another studio in Texas that had a TriCaster and 3 or 4 NDI cameras as well, Adam would be able to not only see all the cameras that were in Texas, he could control them and bring them into his show, and the guy in Texas could bring all the cameras in our studio into his show, and even cooler, with each other's TriCasters, they could talk the TriCasters to each other to share and control each other, and even pick up different things from each other's TriCasters. So if the guy in Texas had a great little video clip loaded on his machine that we didn't have here, we could roll it from his machine to roll into here. The key to making NDI Bridge work is you have to have 2 computers, one in each, well, you have to have a dedicated computer running the bridge in each area, but it's a super cool technology, and it's bringing remote video production to a level that I think is far more reliable, affordable, and achievable for schools and educators versus trying to do all their video production in the cloud. And make no doubt about it, in a few years, I think we will be in the cloud, but for today, what I like to say is the bridge is the first step in remote production for schools and education. So next thing we want to talk about is resolutions. Now, there are cameras that are HD, and HD is basically 2 flavors, 3, 720, 1080i, and 1080p. That's what we see on TV every day. There's also 4K. 4K in education, we're not seeing it as much. And the reason is simple, and that is that you're streaming in 1080. If your kids are watching on their laptops for remote, it's really on 1080p or 720p. And the extra bandwidth, the extra download and upload speed that's needed for 4K just isn't really practical, I think, for most educational settings. I mean, this is the way I like to explain to people to think about it, is if you go on YouTube and watch a 4K video, sometimes it plays great and sometimes it doesn't. So how do you make it play better? You take it down to 1080i or 1080p or 720p. Well, if you're teaching kids, you're doing remote learning and you're 4K, you don't want to ruin your remote lesson because you're trying to go at too high a resolution bandwidth than that person has at their home or wherever they are. So 4K, if you're trying to live stream your plays or graduations and stuff like that, building out a studio, that's great. If you're trying to do just your general sports and your general remote learning that your families and your community are going to watch, I think you're really better off sticking with HD bandwidths. However, there's always a but. There's a really cool technology that's out there called EPTZ. Now, EPTZ is a little different. What EPTZ is, it's a 4K camera sensor that allows you to pull 720p HD footage rectangles out of that image anywhere you want. So think about this, and you're an educator and you're putting on the band, your high school battle of the bands, let's say you're doing. You want to bring it from your auditorium. You get an EPTZ, a single camera facing the band, and now I can have I can have one rectangle that's the lead guitarist. I can have another rectangle that's the bass player. I can have another rectangle on the drummer. I can have another one that's the whole band. I can have one that's the backup singers in the back corner. And you can cut seamlessly back to back between those different views because it's EPTZ, virtual camera settings within the entire production. If I had to use a PTZ camera, it would be moving all over the place. Not saying I couldn't do it, but probably would be better off having 2 cameras, so I'm cutting from one to the other and they're moving. With an EPTZ, I can carve up 3, 4, 5, 6 different presets and pull them out as I need them, plus I have the whole wide shot. So once again, you shoot in 4K, and you can pan, tilt, and zoom through HD regions of interest through your image. Another way to explain this. Now I'm real excited. We're going to talk about auto tracking. And for this, we're actually going to do a demonstration. So right now I'm on a virtual background. And because we're in a virtual background, that doesn't really work well with auto tracking because you're going to see what's going to happen in a second. So guys, do we have that set up? So let's say I'm a teacher and let's bring down the green screen. And I'm going to say, let's do some auto tracking. Well, I have the green screen behind me. And hey, I want to show you about this really cool PTZ camera we have. So I can walk over here. The camera follows me. I pick up the BirdDog camera, show it to you guys, bring it across, bring it over here, come over here. And you can see that the background moved. Now, let's put that background back up if we could. I want to show you why it doesn't work on a virtual background, because you're going to see the camera's going to track on me, but it's not really properly moving the background. So that's one of those things that we've got to be careful on when you're doing it. So that's why you should have, but if you were on a stage or in a classroom now, and I was a teacher who liked to move around, and maybe I'm a science teacher, and let's go back to the green screen because it's going to, and I'm going to say, oh, I'm a teacher, and I have the map of the U.S. Well, here's my map of the United States, and here's Maine, and here's California, here's where the Louisiana Purchase was. Or maybe I'm a science teacher, I'm going to walk over here and say, well, here's the skeleton with all the bones on it and the stuff like that. You know, it lets you move around, and I think one of the things that for teachers especially you've got to realize is that we want to engage the kids. And when we're just looking at a talking head that's off of, let's say, the camera from a laptop, it's not very engaging. Even if I put a PTZ in the back of the room, but I have to sit and stand here the whole time, it's not as engaging. When I can walk around on the set, now, it's like the way I teach. All the teachers I know walk around when they're teaching, you know, some more animated than others, but it's a cool way to bring it together, and I really love this auto tracking. So we've got 3 ways to do auto tracking that we're going to talk to you about right now. We have the P100 that I was using over there that you had your demonstration on. All the BirdDog cameras now come with auto tracking for free. You run the auto tracking software on a computer, and it interacts with the BirdDog. It does your auto tracking via NDI. Super cool. The folks at PTZOptics HuddleCam have a new auto tracker that starts at $14.99 as an auto tracking camera that I think is fantastic for those of you in a classroom, you know, uptight. And once again, why am I telling you this stuff? Because today on the show, we're going to have someone from PTZOptics talk to you specifically about that. Steven's going to be on later. But we also have a super cool technology from a company called MRMC, which is auto tracking to the next level. What they do is, if you look at this diagram, you can see that there's little yellow dots like on the people, because their auto tracking AI software doesn't just track your face, it tracks your limbs and your body as you move. It's really auto tracking to the next level. For those of you in college and university, we could actually have 2 people up here. One camera could be tracking me, the other could be tracking the other guy, and even crazier, we could have the 2 of us with 3 cameras going, 2 tracking me, 1 tracking the other guy, so I could be tracked, but with different points of view where I'm going. It's really amazing software. We're going to tell you all about it later in the show. So what's coming up later? eduStreamTV coming up next. Stephen Haywood from PTZOptics is going to show you the HuddleCam Simple Track. Then we're going to do some Polymotion Chat Pro. That's the software I was telling you about. It's not inexpensive, but for the level of what it does, it's really amazing, sophisticated. Then we're going to have BirdDog on, who just announced a couple of months ago that they have free auto tracking software that is available for all their PTZ cameras, including their P100, P200, their P4K, their P400, and even their outdoor cameras. So pretty incredible stuff on that show. I hope you enjoyed the EduStream show today and that you found it useful. Once again, here is the URL you can go directly to watch the rest of the show. It'll be on www.crowdcast.io/e/edustreamtv, and you'll be able to continue on that shortly. Now, I finished up today's show a little bit earlier than I thought, but what I'm thinking is why don't we go back to the green screen? Let's go back to the auto tracker, And just once again, follow me. Ta-da-da. I'm being auto-tracked. Hey, how you doing? I got a chair over here. I'm gonna sit down on the chair. It's gonna track me on the chair sitting down. It's very, very cool. I think for educators especially, it is really the technology that you want to be looking for the coming year. This is my example of how in 2022 we make things more collaborative, remote, and work better. And not just work better, but more powerful. And we feel that 2022 is going to be the year of auto tracking as one of the biggest technologies that we're going to be showing people and stepping up to. And the beautiful thing is, if you own BirdDog cameras, you now have free auto tracking. If you own a camera from BirdDog or Panasonic or PTZOptics, the MRMC auto tracking software can be added to those cameras. We're going to get into a little show on them explaining how they work on their own, but auto tracking is something you definitely want to learn more about. And if you have any questions about it, who do you call? Ghostbusters. No, just kidding. You call the video guys at 800-323-2325. You tune into our shows Tuesday at 3 o'clock when it's not EduStream, when we go back to our regular format, because we're going to teach you all about the products we sell and what we do. And what I ask is, if you enjoyed this program, if you're happy about the EduStream, hey, go to our Facebook page, like it. Go to YouTube, like our videos, subscribe to our channel. Tell your friends about it, share our videos. They're there for educational purposes for everyone to use and everyone to love and everyone to see. And I see that the main MC of EduStream is here. So here's Jim Baskowitz. He's the head of our marketing department. He is the master of ceremonies for today's show. So I'm going to bring him in here and say, Jim?
And Gary, before I let you go, I actually want to ask you a couple of questions about the auto tracking.
Cool.
Because that's going to drive a lot of the rest of our show this afternoon.
Yes, it is.
I know you have a lot of experience with the school board, working directly with teachers who are using some of the cameras in the schools.
Yep.
And one of the things I thought would be helpful is to discuss some of the avenues where auto tracking can be used beyond the teacher in front of a giant lecture hall.
Right.
Where are some other use cases that you're seeing pop up in schools?
One of the places that we're seeing where auto tracking could be pretty cool is a lot of times you're thinking about the teacher lecturing.
Right.
And I'm thinking that the teacher lecturing, when it's a wide camera shot and they're walking along the stage, that's not as engaging.
Right.
But when it's that shot that's up on me and auto tracking me, that's a lot better. I think anytime you're dealing with manipulatives or like a science experiment as an example, hey, I'm going to walk over here, I'm going to do the experiment now.
Right.
The camera follows you over. It's more engaging. It's a cool way to do it. I also think that it plays very well for when you're doing your performances, when you're doing solo performances for people. Now, I'm not talking about, jugglers and people running all over the place, but I'm saying like if you're having a show where people are doing music or magic or a play that they're speaking on, you could have the auto tracking follow one of the people on the play. That makes it very useful. It's also cool for when you have a discussion where it's a person not really giving a PowerPoint type lecture, but maybe they're giving a graduation speech or something like that.
Yes.
But you want to tell them you can come out from behind the podium. I think one of the things that I like to use an example, and I don't, as educators, you're probably familiar with TED Talks.
Sure.
A TED Talk is not a talking head. The guy's on a stage hitting marks, doing his clicker, but one of the things that keep us engaged in TED Talks, well, the one key thing is it always stays under 18 minutes. They keep them short, but I like the fact, they have professional camera people there with different angles, but the person standing there, he's moving around freer. I think when you tie yourself to a single spot, you tend to be a little restricted and you're not as natural. And this lets you really be more natural. So when you see a teacher, I don't think teachers felt teaching in front of a camera was natural at all.
Right.
I definitely sitting in front of a camera to see their students wasn't natural. How about a room where I have an auto tracking camera on the teacher, then on a side wall I've got the monitor that's got all the kids for the Zoom, if we ever had to go remote again. Right. So now I can engage with my class there on the side, but the camera's following me on what I'm doing. And I also think what we talked about in the first show is I hope we never have to close schools and go remote again. But I think that having a remote streaming component to education is something we should never give up and never let go. I think it's a way to not only teach a broader array of people. As an example, like let's say I'm a school district, and I have this teacher who does this fantastic unit on butterflies, caterpillars to butterflies, Why not have every classroom that's in third grade and each elementary school be able to share that great class that teacher's doing. Maybe he's doing it for a day, a couple of days a week. But now if you can auto track, so the teacher can still be in the room, you can have him moving around the room, he could be picking up the caterpillar, in the cocoon and stuff like that. There's so many ways that you can use it. And I'm not saying that one teacher teaches to the 4 schools, but I'm saying now that everyone can share that, and then the teachers in the classroom can still engage their kids to talk about it more, but we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yep.
And if each 3rd grade teacher had one great thing they share as a unit that they do and it's all shared, that just makes us all better to me. It's collaborative, it's lifting up the game. So I think there's a lot of fun stuff we can do, and I think if we do it right, we're going to see a remote live streaming component in education that sticks around, and it's only going to get better. And auto tracking is one of the ways to do it.
And I think what you really touched upon there too is every time we see an auto tracking demo, it's a college professor who has a stage to walk around and a huge lecture hall.
Yep.
But one of the things that's interesting is it could be a desk this size, like the demo you showed off earlier, where it could be a primary or secondary teacher teaching over Zoom, maybe even a hybrid environment where there are some kids in the classroom and other kids at home, but moving across a 5-foot desk to go grab the Bunsen burner over here and then come back over here. When the camera moves your eye to the subject, it makes everything much more engaging for the audience.
And it lets it also lets you kind of trick children, and I mean that in a great way. And that is that I know when I walked over there to get that camera, everyone who saw me moving was thinking, what's he getting there?
Right.
So now if I've got a classroom and I've got a desk, and every now and then I go, I'm going to reach over to this end of my desk and get something. What's Mr. Batan going to pull out of that desk? What's he pulling out of his bag of tricks today? And it's just one of those ways to make this remote connection a little more engaging than just looking at a talking head. And we did what we had to do. We did great. I compliment, and I can't say this enough, and I'm going to run on a little bit, every teacher who got through this period, whether your school shut down for a day, a week, a month, or a year. What you guys did, how you were able to pivot and keep schools going and make sure that all your kids got the lessons and the love that they need from you as a teacher, that you were able to do this not for a month, but for a period of years in some states. Just kudos to you. Great job. We're not saying that remote teaching should be the wave of the future. We're just saying it's a component, a way to do things that can complement the stuff you know how to do already. And if it's going to work and it's going to help you and it's going to help kids, then we should keep doing it.
Absolutely. And Gary, the other thing I want to ask you about before we let you go is we're in the Northeast. And we're in the Northeast in winter. And one of the conversations that pops up all the time is, are we going to give the kids a traditional snow day? If we give them too many snow days, is it going to cut into their spring break and their summer vacations? And how do we manage all of these different days? Now, this is a question that's being asked everywhere, like the Northeast.
I'm sorry I'm laughing so much, but I'm on the school board.
Yep.
I sell this technology, so they know me as the guy who's going to kill snow days. I'm like, no, we got to make sure that at least if it snows, like maybe the first day we let the kids go sledding, Right. But if it's going to be, we can be snowed in for a few days, absolutely it gives us flexibility. But the snow day is a great example in the Northeast, in the South where they get, other weather things like hurricanes and tornadoes and floods, it's something like that. Plus, there's also heat waves that hit in certain areas where even if the schools have air conditioning, it just can't keep up. So it's just a way that you can continue the educational process. I think that as a kind of novelty thing where it happens, once in a while, everything, far more engaging, cool, everyone can get back into it.
Sure.
No one wants to be back home learning through a screen.
Right.
But it's something that makes us all a little bit more efficient and lets us do things better. That's great. The other thing that I know is, in some school districts, on election day, a national election, they like to close school.
Right.
Well, because they vote in their schools. I understand why they want to do that for safety, but why not figure out a way to have that just be a remote day?
Right.
And let the kids learn remotely. The teachers can teach from home or from the classroom, whatever. People can come in and vote. And we don't have any safety concerns. And once again, I also want to stress that I feel outside of educating kids, this technology and live streaming is a great way for educators to reach out to their community, to build the homeschool connection. Whether you are the wealthiest district or the poorest district, the chances are a lot of the parents have these. They have cell phones.
Sure.
They have the ability to watch video. And if you can make clips that are meaningful clips that are a few minutes long, text or email them that they're coming, it's a way that you can say, hey, we have big news, we have, this, we're doing this contest, or hey, come watch Jimmy, our star point guard tomorrow. You know, he's playing in this game and you know, it's going to be the big deal. Or it could be as simple as a performance, or you could be celebrating the fact that, you know, your college acceptances came and these kids are going to college. It could be as fun as someone won an award for a research project or for an art project that they did. It's a way to build that homeschool connection. And the one thing I've learned on being on a board of ed is the homeschool connection is a critical component to making schools work and public schools work in this country.
Yep.
And when the parents and the school and the community are on the same page, a lot gets done. And when they start fighting with each other, a lot of distractions happen that stop the work of educating kids from happening. So I'm just saying live streaming is a way that you can build trust with your community, communicate, and transparency with your community. If you chose to do so, my district does that. I hope other districts do that as well in the future.
And I'll say, even from a higher education point of view, what we're doing with this technology, and I think part of the responsibility of every teacher, is to prepare kids for the real world.
Yep.
A hybrid workforce, a work from home and be successful doing it is becoming a real need in today's society.
It really is.
So now to schedule some of these remote days as part of your education, to teach kids how to use the technology to the best of its ability, all comes part to developing these future skills.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little further, and I'm going to, you know, I did this in the first show, but I like to remind people that William Shakespeare wasn't writing books and novels. He wrote plays to entertain people, to communicate, to tell stories. Well, today, the way we teach children how to tell stories is with video. Right. And they're watching TikToks, they're doing Snap, but they're also watching YouTube videos, they're also watching educational videos that we're using. Every school, every high school, I hope, will be able to have a media department in some way where their kids will learn how to operate a TriCaster, control cameras, how to operate a camera, how to create video content, how to tell stories using video. So let's see it in every journalism school. Let's get our sports out there for the whole world. It's more than remote teaching. I don't want people to think that's what EduStream is about.
Right.
EduStream is about using video, educators using video to connect with more people, to teach, connect, and to learn and to tell stories. And I'm going to flip this over to you, and you're going to tell some stories great, but I remind everyone that be a great educator, be a great storyteller, be engaging, work for kids.
Gary, I'm glad we had the opportunity to talk. We're going to cut the commercial, and when we come back, we're going to have Stephen Haywood from PTZOptics joining us for our first demo of the day.
Peace, 328.
Attention educators, register now for eduStreamTV. Registration gets you access to all 3 days with more than half a dozen live demos, including the live production from NewTek, Telestream, and Epiphan, auto-tracking cameras from PTZOptics, BirdDog, and MRMC, and sports solutions like the LiveView Solo and 3Play. Register now for your chance to win thousands of dollars and great prizes like the LiveView Solo HDMI with 2 modem bundle, Epiphan AVIO HD, Telestream Wirecast Pro, PedalCam HD Simple Track Lite, and the NewTek U training and certification on TriCaster and 3Play. Register now.